Welcome back to UE5 BP Guru. We're back in our first person series, and in the last episode we looked at importing animations from Mixamo and retargeting those animations, or at least retargeting the bones so that the animations sort of looked correct, ready for upload, or ready for use, I suppose, not upload. So now that we've got all our animations ready and we are kind of wanting to sort of set everything up, there's a couple of things we need to do. The first is we need to open up our third person character, we need to select our mesh, and we need to select good old test subject Michael. Now I haven't actually renamed anything, so I'm going to make sure we have a permanent one. So let's go into our animation BP and let's use crouch idle 1. And we're going to rename that to the same thing we renamed the skeleton, and we're going to rename it to test subject Michael underscore SM for skeletal mesh. Great. So now we have that, we can click onto here where it says skeletal mesh asset, and we can click on test subject Michael. There he is. Now, of course, the camera is going to freak out. We need to pick a new bone for it to follow, which it subsequently is still head. So we need to now rotate it so it aligns correctly again. I believe it's upside down. There we go. There we go. And let's just put it back into place. Now it's going to do that because we have ourselves a new mesh. So it's always going to do things like that. Now, I think that's probably still not far enough forward. Let's give it a try. Okay, now we're obviously not going to have any animations, but that looks to be working pretty nicely. Okay, great. So the next thing we need to do now is click on the actual BP. Now we've got our skeletal mesh there as test subject Michael, but we still have it set up as an admin class of Quinn, which we don't need. We don't want that. So what we need to do is create a new one. So we're going to go into the third person folder. We're going to go into, not into animation, sorry, we're going to go into blueprints. And right in here, we're going to go down to, where is it? Animation. We're going to click on the animation blueprint. And we're going to click on test subject Michael. And we're going to call this TSM underscore anim BP. So that stands for test subject Michael underscore anim BP. When we open this, it's going to be blank. We're not going to have anything in here. And what we need to get in here is a state machine. Like so. There it is. And we're going to rename that state machine to locomotion. And we're going to plug that into here. We're going to open that up. And what we need to have is our idle animation, our idle, walk, and run. So entry node locomotion has no connection to state, so that's fine because we're going to set one up. Now, from my understanding, 5.1 onwards, they got rid of blend space 1 dimensions, which is one of the ones that I used to like using. But we're going to keep it to non-legacy stuff because obviously that will be deprecated out at some point or another. So we're going to use the blend space. And we're going to set that up to the test subject Michael again. So we're going to call it TSM underscore anim BP. No, we're not. We're going to call it BS for blend space. So TMS blend space. And I actually probably should have given it a better label than that. So sorry, let me rephrase that. We're going to rename it. And we're going to call it TSM walk underscore blend space. That's better. So in this blend space, we have, if we click on asset details on the top left here, we've got a bunch of information. What we really need to know is the horizontal and the vertical. And so the way to think of it is this is left or right, and this is forwards and backwards. So we're going to call this one direction, and that should go from minus 180 to 180. And this is more so if you want to add in sort of left and right kind of walking. So if they walk left, walk right, which we will do down the line, I'm sure. And in the bottom one, we're going to call this speed. So this goes from 0 all the way up to whatever you want your run to be. Mine's going to be set at 600. The minimum access should be 0, sorry, and the maximum should be 600. And then we just want to, for now, we just want to add in our standard idle animation. Put that in at 0, 0. If you click on it, you can make it a lot more precise by saying 0, 0. And then for walking, we want that to be at 300. So make sure it is actually bang on 300. And the direction should be 0 as well. And then we want our running animation. And we're going to set that running animation to 600. And it's also going to have a direction of 0. That should get you walking, if I zoom out a bit, and then running, depending on the speed we're going to be taking. Now that that's set up, we can save it. We can open up the NMBP compile, and we want to add in a new state. And we're going to call this walk slash. We're going to call it idle slash walk for now. Running is kind of, it comes part of it anyway. So click on the asset browser on the right hand side here, and you should have now TSM walk. Bring that in, and we can plug that in. We're going to set up the direction. Oh, direction. No, we're going to promote it. Sorry, promote to variable, and it'll automatically be called direction. And promote this one, which will also be automatically called speed. And that's kind of all we need to do in here. Now, before I go there, let's go back into locomotion. Now, the other side of the coin is we want to also be able to crouch in this video. So what we're going to do is we're going to create one more blend space. Click on test subject Michael, and we're going to code TSM crouch underscore blend space. Open it up. And we're going to have crouch idle, wherever it is. Which one looks better? That one looks better. We'll go for that one. And again, we want this to be 0 and 0. Oh, I haven't actually set this up yet. My apologies. Horizontal is direction. And again, that should be minus 180 to 180. And this one is going to be called speed. And it's going to be 0 to, now for crouching, because we want crouching to be slower, I want it to be set to, I'm going to set to 200 for now. It might need testing, but we can always check that out down the line. And then we want our crouch walking animation. And again, click on it, set this direction to 0, and the speed is 200, so that's fine. So as we say, it gets going, stops, and it gets going. And it has that kind of nice little blend in it, that it's not just so sharp that it just changes animation straight away. So for this one, we're going to add a state, and we'll call this one crouching. Okay. Now, you'll see that we've got this new pin here. This is going to be important because that's what's going to tell it. That's what's going to tell it if we are crouching or not. And we're going to use a Boolean for this. So as you can see, I've created is crouching, and we're going to go into here and plug is crouching. Come back into the locomotion because we need to be able to tell it if we're going back to walking. So click on this, or back to standing at least. And then we're going to say is crouching not equal, not equal. We want, let's just put in not again. We want not Boolean. So is crouching not true? And we say yes. So that goes in as well. And that's how we go back and forth. And into the crouching, we're just going to plug in our TSM crouch. Like so. And then we're going to plug in the same direction and the same speed variables into this. So now that that's done, we can compile. If we go into our third person character, we can now add in that new animation blueprint, wherever it is. Where is it? Where's our new animation? TSM and then BP, there it is. And you can already see he's in our idle pose. If we compile, that, go into the third person character and press play, you'll see we're in our idle animation. But when we walk and run, it doesn't change to the animations. Well, that's because we need to tell it when we're in those animations. So to change that, what we need to do is we need to go back into our MVP. We want to go to the event graph, and we want to change this event graph. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to cast to the third person character. Compile that. Okay. And then what we need from that is we need to get our movement component. So get character movement. So get character movement, and from that we need to get a few things. So what we want to get is our velocity. Get the velocity, and then from that velocity we want to get the vector length x and y, and that is going to become our speed, like so. And then we plug that into there, and if we compile that, we press play, and it tells you what speed we're going now. And if we start, so that is our running done. Very, very simple. After that, we need to get our crouching working. The first thing we're going to do is in our third person character, we're going to set up a new variable called isCrouching. And we need to now set that. So what we need to do is set up a new action mapping. So before we can come into the event graph, what we need to do is go into the content drawer, go into third person character, go into input, and go into the actions, and right click, create a new input action. And we're going to call it IA_crouch. Open it up, and we don't really need to necessarily do much in this, so we can just actually close that. But what we do need to do is go into the IMC default and add in that new mapping. Click on IA_crouch, and I'm going to have it that we get it when we press C. Crouching is C on mine for now. Now I haven't done any gamepad additions to this, but potentially you could by clicking on that, I believe, yeah. So if you want to add in the gamepad code for that one, that's how you do it. So we have our IA_crouch, and from in here we can get the input, so crouch, and it should come up with the enhanced input, and we want it on started. For now we just want to do a I'm trying to think what I want to do here. So when we press it, we are going to say, so luckily they kind of give you all this. We can say crouch, and on completed we could say uncrouch, like so. So that does that, a lot of that for you. And then all we need to do is set the Boolean on here to true, and on here to false. And if we click on our character movement, we can say we have a max crouch speed walk on here. The maximum grab speed when walking and crouched. So we want that to be 200. And click compile. So let's give it a go. Not doing it. Oh, of course. My apologies. If you come into the NMBP, we actually need to tell it to change the animations. Oh God. So yeah, we need to tell it to do its animations. So is crouching, we want to set that. Set it in there. And from here, get is crouching. Like so, and we plug it into there. There we go. All done. And now it should work. Now, there's still some quality of life things we want to do. There we go. If we hold it down, we can look around. There we go. We're crouching. And now we're not crouching. Now, there's a couple of other things we need to do before we finish this up. Now, one thing we don't want to have happen is sprinting. So if we are sprinting, we don't want to do anything. And so yeah, if it's true, we do nothing. If it's false, we can crouch. And then we set obviously the crouching is true, blah, 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 all that kind of good stuff. And what we want to do is also on here. So we say, okay, before we do any of that, we want to know, are we crouching? So we're going to get a branch, stick that into there. And if we're true, we don't want to do anything. And if it's false, we can carry on. So are we crouching? And if we are not crouching, we can sprint. But if we are crouching, we do nothing. And it's the same thing with this. It's like a flip-flop thing. If are we sprinting? No, we can crouch. If we are, we can't. And then when we let go, we uncrouch and set crouching to false. So that's kind of how we do that. Now let's give it another quick test. Let's give ourselves a little bit more room. So if we press C, we start crouching. We can look around. I don't know why it gets a bit laggy when I'm doing that. I think it's because I'm running the recording information. Okay, stop. See, it's still going. Yeah, it doesn't really like it when I'm recording. Okay, and if I crouch and then hold down sprint, I can't sprint. If I let go of it, I can sprint, and if I press C, I can't crouch. So that's working kind of as intended. So this should now give you a fully working sprint and crouch as intended. So if we're crouching, we can't sprint, and if we're sprinting, we can't crouch. Hopefully you found this useful. With both these setups, I have done a lot more kind of in-depth research into a lot of this stuff to make sure it works a lot better than it did with the Haven project. So hopefully everybody has a far better working system this time around. If you've enjoyed this episode, hit that like button. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. It's free to do. You can always change your mind down the line. And everybody else, I will see you in the next episode. Much love. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.